Let's see what they're talking about. Piers Morgan has got it looks like Michael Francis on here. It says not a lone gunman. Trump declassified JFK files. Let's kind of listen to this. Let me pull this up. Hold up. Let's pull this up.
Well, amongst the blitz of executive orders unleashed by President Trump during his first week in power, one particular decree caught the eye of conspiracy theorists everywhere.
We have an executive order ordering the declassification of files relating to the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this for years.
Yo, it took this long for them to even think about doing it. It's crazy.
For decades.
Shout out to you, Craig Wilson. I see you in here.
And everything will be revealed. Okay? Give that to RFK Jr.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Well, the official narrative surrounding the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, namely that all three were killed by lone gunmen, have long been questioned by those who suspect wider involvement. That includes the man many say has been the catalyst of Trump's dramatic declassification edict, RFK Jr. Well, here's how he reacted to the news of the executive order.
You think that that's the right move to declassify those documents?
I think it's a great move because we need to have more transparency in our government, and he's keeping his promise to have the government tell the truth to the American people about everything.
Well, I'm joined to debate all this by my three guests, each with their own unique perspective on what these declassified documents could reveal. Jefferson Morley is a journalist and historian. He's written extensively about the JFK assassination and the CIA. Michael Francis, once a capo in the Colombo crime family, thinks the mob played a critical role in the killing of Kennedy. And the former CIA officer Mike Baker, who says he's not a conspiracy guy and that Oswald could have made the shot on his own. Well, welcome to all of you. Let me start with you, if I may, Jefferson. You've written a lot about this. Your belief is that the most likely theory, and we may discover more meat on this theory bone, is that JFK was killed by enemies within the United States government. And by that, do you mean the CIA?
What's up, you tried? What's up with you?
CIA and the Pentagon. That's what the preponderance of evidence that's come out in the last 20 years tells us. Yeah.
So explain for those who are not as expert as you are, just explain, right, Jefferson, for those who have not as read as much as you had, but what are the key things that have emerged in the last 20 years that have led you to that conclusion?
Three things. One is the testimony of the doctors who tried to save Kennedy's life. These 7 doctors didn't really talk publicly until they got together in 2011, 2010. And their views are expressed on an excellent documentary on Paramount Plus called What the Doctors Saw. And those doctors who tried to save Kennedy's life, who examined his wounds in the 30 minutes before he died, said unanimously that Kennedy had been hit by gunfire from 2 different directions. So right there, that is powerful.
Yo, from 2 different directions? Like, what?
Refutation of the government's already weak lone gunman theory. A second thing that I think is very important, and we only learned in 2017, the CIA itself did not believe the lone gunman theory. A few days after Kennedy was assassinated, the CIA station in Miami launched its own internal investigation of Kennedy's death. They did not investigate Lee Harvey Oswald. They did not investigate organized crime. They didn't investigate the KGB. They didn't investigate Fidel
What's up, mafioso?
Castro. They didn't investigate the aliens who were flying those drones over New Jersey. They investigated exiles known to the CIA in South Florida. And that report, the findings of that internal investigation, were never released. And finally, in April 2023, the CIA's pre-assassination file on Lee Harvey Oswald was completely declassified for the first time. Imagine that. The so-called lone gunman, his file was so sensitive that it took 61 years to totally declassify it. What does that file show us? It's not a smoking gun, but it does show that Oswald was not, repeat, not a lone nut. He was a known quantity, known to a handful of CIA officers working for counterintelligence chief James Angleton. So with that as the fact pattern that we now have, that the Warren Commission conclusion is not correct and something else happened, I think what we're going to find out is in these files that to come, we're going to see more of the fact pattern that has emerged in the last 20 years, that the Warren Commission is wrong and something else happened probably involving people in the U.S. government.
Respect VA, he said, Piper Boy, you've been working, get some sleep. Yo, like, sleep comes to the dead, bro. Like, I don't believe in sleep, bro.
It's interesting because, Mike Baker, you are a former CIA officer. When you hear these theories that maybe it was an inside job, effectively, by the U.S. government, maybe the CIA were involved, do you think that's even remotely feasible?
Well, look, never say never.
That's why I feel like my brand has been like so effective, like in battle rap, because it's like I'd be knowing like everything from being up, kind of looking around. Like, look, like I literally just like blogged on something like 6 hours ago and nobody knew about. And then people were like starting to talk about what I blogged about. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's crazy. Like, these people don't have minds of their own in battle rap. It's just ridiculous.
Right. And one thing I've learned, and
not you, but like just battle rap like stuff, period. It be getting annoying. That's why I'm like, they just follow every little thing I do. It's ridiculous. Not the fans, but like the content creators and stuff. It's annoying.
And 40 years of investigations and operations.
So I'm like sometimes I'll talk about it and then I just get up out of it because I'm gonna end up saying something.
Says, until you've got all the evidence in front of you, you can't rule anything out, right? Yes. I mean, that's good common sense. I have a feeling, though, that once they release the remaining documents, and I think people should understand that a vast majority of the documents have already been released, right? So we're not talking about a lot of records here, right? And my concern is that there won't be a smoking gun, as we just mentioned, but I think that it won't stop a variety of the conspiracy theories. I think it's going to be an unsatisfactory release, is what I guess I'm saying.
When are they planning on releasing all of this, bro?
I think what it will show is what was just pointed out was, yes, Lee Harvey Oswald was a known quantity for a reason, for a counterintelligence reason, right? He had moved over to the Soviet Union. He had lived there in an unsatisfactory manner in his mind for some time. He had traveled down to Mexico weeks before the assassination to meet with the Cuban consulate. He was desperate to prove his value to the revolution. Right. So, yes, he was known. And I think what the release of the documents may show, as opposed to a smoking gun and satisfy all the various conspiracy theories, is that.
Let me look at the comment section. Christian Medwick, shout out to you. He said, I think maybe Luigi did it. Craig Wilson, shout out to you, Tried. Richard Allen said, oh, no, Trump is actually making America great again. Respect VA said, yo. And then you tried, said, you're not entertained. Respect VA, say, Papa Boy, you've been working to get some sleep. Nola said, well. And then Nola said, so I'm looking online, I'm seeing things. Christian Medwood said, it's 4 a.m. here. I need sleep. Oh yeah, you're not in America.
It was inadequate work on the part of the CIA and the FBI in terms of following up on Lee Harvey Oswald.
Michael, let me ask you a question as a CIA officer. The director of counterintelligence of the CIA knew that Lee Harvey Oswald was in Texas in early November 1963. Is that an intelligence failure in your mind? Was Kennedy's assassination?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
James Barry said, a federal judge temporarily halted President Donald Trump's directive to the Office of Management and Budget to freeze all federal grants and loans until at least Monday. Richard Porter said the guy confessed to unaliving JFK. It's on YouTube. Jonathan Castino said Piper Boy is the best battle rap blogger. He matured, covering everything important. I had to, bro. I was losing my mind in battle rap. Like, you don't understand. Like, when you watch content creators like literally be you, like, and nobody says anything, like it becomes like super annoying. Like I had to leave. You know what I mean? Like it got like I'll talk about it periodically, but then I'll dip off and go into entertainment and then come back and then go into entertainment. 'Cause it gets so annoying, bro.
I think what we'll
Like being emulated is annoying.
see is
Well, that's what we've already
you know,
looked.
it's apples and oranges, but somewhat akin to what we saw in 9/11, a failure to coordinate across the board, right? So the FBI,
The CIA doesn't say that.
Yeah, this is political. I don't want, politics and entertainment. So I don't want to talk about battle rap right now. There's no disrespect, because I don't want that to start pouring into this.
By the way,
yeah, what's that?
the CIA, by the way, and no investigative body has ever said that. What the investigative bodies were told was, and I quote Director Richard Helms under oath, "We only had minimal information about him." Is 100?
Nola Barr said facts. People even stole the soundproof setup. It's just crazy, bro. And nobody says anything. And then if I say something, it's gonna. But it's just insane. It's insanity.
80 pages of material on Lee Harvey Oswald, minimal?
They just don't, like, a lot of these dudes don't have minds of their own. Like, they don't. Some of them do, some of them don't.
Yeah, look, again, from a counterintelligence perspective,
No, it's not.
Lee Harvey
I mean, it's
Oswald
plainly not.
I know. Yeah, but we got to have a conversation here where one of us only talks at a time.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, my point is, from a counterintelligence perspective, Lee Harvey Oswald is exactly the sort of person that the agency and the Bureau should have been focused on, right? And so what I'm saying
Should
is
they
the
have
release of
lied to the
records
Warren
may
Commission
well-
about that?
Yeah, may well show that was not being done, and I think it could be embarrassing to the government, and may well have been the reason why in 2017, during Trump's first term, some of the material was kept classified.
Okay, but Mike Baker, before I go to Michael Francis for the mob side of this in terms of theories, you actually went to the Dallas Book Depository, didn't you? And you tried to make the shot yourself, and you concluded it wasn't an impossible shot. In other words, it was possible that the theory that Lee Harvey Oswald just fired this bullet that went through two people was what happened.
Yeah, look, the point being is that
why is this like? I mean, like, this is so many years. Like, it's starting to get ridiculous. Just say what happened. Say what happened. But, like, a lot of people, I think the problem about the whole JFK thing is a lot of people were still alive that could be affected. So, but now so many people have passed, like, just put it out. You know what I'm saying? Tyson Garcia said we getting Piperboy and Candace Owens on a live. No, not right now. Respect VA said, we're not talking about that. Dice Garcia said Lee Harvey didn't do it. He was the patsy. You said you want to see me on Piers Morgan?
The shot itself was not a difficult shot, right? There was no wind. It was moving in a straight line. He had recce'd the location ahead of time from a operational perspective, and he had sufficient training as a Marine. It's not hard to say, okay, oh my God, there's no way this guy could have made the shot. So my point is, he could have made the shot. Again, I go back to the same thing. It's like with MLK, Martin Luther King, which I think is definitely an investigation that needs to be dug into much harder, right? You can never say never until you have all the evidence in front of you. So I'm not drawing a line under this and saying we know for a fact what happened. I'm just saying that the release of the remaining documents will probably not be a satisfying experience.
Right, I think you may be right. Let's bring in Michael Francis if you're waiting very patiently. I want to tee you up, Michael, by playing a clip. This is RFK Jr.'s daughter-in-law, who is come out and said this to Tucker Carlson. Let's take a look.
Christian Medwood said, I don't understand why people like Piers. Everyone in England hates him. Oh, Piers Morgan?
And I feel something of a responsibility to get to.
Oh, you don't understand why people like Piers. Everyone in England hates him. He's pretty fair when he conducts debates. Sometimes he'll pick like a super far right side or a super far left side, but for the most part, when he does debates, he's fair. I think that's what people like about him. and he's not afraid to cover a lot of different topics. And he's been around a while. Like, he's a true thoroughbred journalist. Like, he's been around for a while, and I think he's super trusted. So, I mean, I like him. I think he's cool. I ain't got no problem with him. Tyson Garcia said they downing the JFK files and haven't even looked at them. Talk about deflection.
At the bottom of that, at least in my lifetime, for my children, you know, I mean, my daughter Bobcat is.
Somebody said only thing he known for is Top Gear. No, Piers Morgan covered a lot of things. I rock with Piers Morgan, man. If people don't like him, they don't like him. I rock with him. Somebody said find out who unalived Tupac. People already know. It was Baby Lane. Like, it was clear he did it. Like, I mean, I don't know who did that to Tupac. It was Baby Lane.
Bobby the Fourth. So her great grandfather was RFK, and I want to be able to look at her and for her to know whether or not her own government was involved in these assassinations, and if so, what's been done about it to make sure that that never ever happens again, that there's never a coup like that in this country again. And I think when you look at the collaboration that was going on in those days between the intelligence community and organized crime and the mob, you know, there were very blurry boundaries.
Yeah.
Michael.
So that's why he's got Michael Francis on there.
You know, you said if you believe Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, then you believe in Santa Claus. One of the big theories, of course, is that both the Kennedy brothers were, you know, thick as thieves with a lot of the mob, and that this was not a connection that should be ruled out. Explain why you think this might be one of the theories, and it may be we get more information about that if these files get released.
Well, Pierce, I can only tell you what I've heard my entire life, and that was from the time Kennedy got killed. You know, people in the mob hated Kennedys, you know, and normally guys in the mob don't want to take credit for things like this. They'd rather not talk about it. Not the thugs, I mean the people in charge. People like Carmine Persico, who was the boss of the Colombo family, Tony Salerno, boss of the Genovese family, and my father, who was very high up at the time. You know, it goes back, I was 12 years old when Kennedy got killed, and I just remember my father saying things to my mother, don't feel bad about these guys were rats, they double-crossed us, and so on and so forth. Cut to the time that I was in the life, and, you know, I heard consistently from Persico, from Tony, from my father, that what I believe it came down is that the CIA had come to, they said the CIA, people in government who were part of this assassination plot with the Kennedys, came to us afterwards and asked that Oswald be killed. Jack Ruby, I don't know why people deny that he wasn't mobbed up. He was totally mobbed up. You know, from the time he was in Chicago, he had relationships with Sam Giancana. He had relationships with Joe Campisi, who was really the boss of Dallas, who was very close with Carlos Marcello in New Orleans. And he also had cops on his payroll. He was able to get entry into Oswald. Now, I will tell you this. What I also heard is this. And again, these people don't brag about things like this. They're talking matter-of-factly. You know, the fact that allegedly, what I was told, they had a deal with Joe Kennedy, who I know was definitely in touch with and had relationships with Frank Costello during his bootlegging days. There's no question about that. People can deny it, they can, but I've heard that my entire life too. And that guys in Chicago were instrumental in helping many of the labor unions, you know, vote for the Democrats. Now, Chicago's a mob-run city. You know, it always was, you know, from the days of Capone on forward. And the mob played a part in helping deliver. And that was a very tight election between Kennedy and Nixon. And
yo, Michael Francis be telling everything. You know, like them dudes that used to be in charge back in the day, there's no way they're still walking this earth, like allowing this dude to go on platform after platform and tell everything. Shout out to Michael Francini. He don't care, bro.
And the deal was that the heat was supposed to be off.
Shout out to Moss. He's a member on here. He said, do you know how to find the information? If not, I can give you the website.
What I heard afterwards, Robert Kennedy, who my father hated, my father believes Robert Kennedy was the one that really pursued him, put him away for 50 years, that the Justice Department was supposed to back off us, and instead they went on even harder. And so if I had to take a lie detector test and swear to it.
It's on the White House website said the declassification of records concerning the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the revered Dr. King Jr. Executive order by the authority vested in the President of the Constitution. By the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered as follows. Section 1, Policy and Purpose. More than 50 years after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and the revered Martin Luther King Jr., the federal government has not released to the public all of its records related to those events. Their families and the American people deserve transparency and truth. It is in the national interest to finally release all records related to these assassinations without delay. The President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992 required all records related to the assassination of President Kennedy to be publicly disclosed in full by October 26, 2017, unless the President certified that continued postponement is made necessary by an indemnifiable harm to the military, defense, intelligence operation, law enforcement, or conduct or foreign relations, and the indemnifiable harm of such gravity that it outweighs the public interest in disclosure. President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Act of 1992, Section 5G 2D, Public Law 102-526, 106 Stat 3443, and all of that crap. It said, I previously accepted proposals, redactions from executive department and agencies, but ordered the continued re-evaluation of those remaining redactions. See temporary certification of certain records related to the assassination of John F. Kennedy, 82 Federal Register. So this is like executive order. It said President Biden issued subsequent certifications with respect to these records in 2021, 2022, and 2023, which gave agencies additional time to review the records and withhold information from public disclosure. Come on, Biden. He just don't want us. This dude is so corrupt, man. See temporary certification regarding disclosure of information in certain records related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, 86 Federal Regulation of 59,599, certification regarding disclosure of information in certain records related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, 87 Federal, it's just a bunch of numbers and stuff. It said, I have now determined that the continued redaction and withholding of information from records pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy is not consistent with the public interest, and the release of the records is long overdue. And although no act of Congress directs the release of information pertaining to the assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy and the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., I have determined that the release of the records in the federal government possession pertaining to each of those assassinations is also in the public interest. Section 2, declassification and disclosure. Within 15 days of the date of this order, the Director of National Intelligence and the Attorney General shall, in coordination with the Assistant of the President for National Security Affairs and the Counsel to the President, present a plan to the President for the full and complete release of records relating to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Within 45 days of the date of this order, the Director of the National Intelligence and Attorney General shall, in coordination with the Assistant of the President for National Security Affairs and the Counsel of the President, review records related to the assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and present a plan to the President for the full and complete release of these records. Why did they say assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy? I think that was a typo. It says, Section 3, general provisions. Nothing in this order shall be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or the head thereof, or the function of the director of the Office of Management and Budget relating to budgetary, administrative, or legislative proposals. This order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriations. The order is not intended to and does not create any right of benefit, substantive or procedural, enforceable at law or in equity by any part against the United States, its department, agencies, or entities, its officers, employees, or agents, or any other person. So it says that this is basically an order to declassify everything, but nothing is declassified yet, from what I can see.
What I've heard my entire life from people in the know, there was definitely mob involvement in that. Jack Ruby was definitely hooked up with us. And look, that wasn't the first time the CIA came to us. I mean, they did it, they tried to assassinate, what's his name? Castro from Cuba. They went to Johnny Rosella and Sam Giancana. And what about, during World War II, when they went to Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky for help to get the Allies into Sicily? So is it, I don't believe that the United States government ever wants to get word out there that the mob had anything to do with assassinating a sitting president. So I don't know if it's ever going to be revealed, but if I had to swear to it, it was a matter of life and death for me, based upon everything I heard from the right people, I'd have to say there's no doubt in my mind.
Fascinating. Jefferson, I saw you nodding to quite a lot of that. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that the Kennedy family...
Michael's absolutely...
I was going to say that the Kennedy family had a lot of contact with the mob in varying ways, and there's no doubt that the general perceived wisdom is that they went back on a deal when JFK became president. They reneged on a deal to be more helpful to the mob, and in fact went the other way, and it ended up with Robert Kennedy really targeting them and going after them. So there was clearly a sense of betrayal there from members of the mob at the time. I think that is indisputable. Do you think it's a stretch to say that maybe they were behind all this?
I think Michael had it exactly right. The organized crime rule was to eliminate Oswald, the inconvenient witness, and they used their pawn, Jack Ruby, to do that. I don't think that organized crime organized the whole ambush in Dealey Plaza. That was a very sophisticated operation. And organized crime, when they decide to take somebody out, they don't shoot at a moving target in a public space. They kill them behind doors or give them cement shoes. So the operation itself seems more sophisticated than an organized crime. But Michael's absolutely right about the organized crime role in the events of 1963. Organized crime helped silence the CIA pawn, Lee Harvey Oswald.
Mike Baker, let's take a look at a clip of Lee Harvey Oswald. This is after he was arrested.
I really don't know what
What y'all think about all this? What's up, Froggy Megsy?
You give me a legal assistance.
Tyson said the driver did it. I know what you're talking about. There's a lot of speculation about that because the way he turned around and moved and everything. But like when you really stop that, like you do it frame by frame, the driver didn't do it. You know what I mean? That's just rumors. And I heard the guy say it. I know a video you're talking about, and if you just look at it on a glance, it looks like he did, but no, when you stop the frame, he didn't have nothing in his hand to do that.
Did you kill the president? No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet.
You know what struck me, Mike, was just...
Well, did he look innocent to y'all? You tell me.
I do request...
You know what struck me?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, the driver was. It was an interesting situation. The reason why they were thinking it was the driver is because, like, if it would have came from behind, right? Why would Kennedy's wife try to crawl away from the driver? You see what I'm saying? Like, you would think, like, if it's coming from, because she's sitting next to Kennedy, so if it's coming from this way, you would think a person will either want to duck down in the seat, you know what I'm saying, or try to get as close to the front as possible, or like kind of duck down. So that's why they're thinking like, yo, the driver, you know, the passenger or the driver, whatever, turned around, did it, and then she seen it and she was trying to, you know what I'm saying, get away. You know, so who knows, man? Who knows? But nah, I don't think the driver did it.
Mike, was just, until recently, I was always of the view, how the hell do we not know more about this? How do we not know actually what happened? This is the United States of America. This is the president was assassinated, and then the assassin got assassinated. It's like, and then the president's brother and so on. How can these still be things that are unresolved? And then I saw what happened with Donald Trump, where he is the victim of an attempted assassination. He gets hit on the ear, he nearly dies. The guy is on a roof 150 yards away and he gets killed, so we'll never find out from him. But we still know so little about that young guy, right? We just don't know much about him at all. Motivation, why he did it, background, no social media. It was all just very odd, and has all just kind of disappeared off the news radar. And so now...
Then another thing, like, even if he did do it, like, why did he do it? Like, you know, it's so much at play to keep you from knowing everything. Like, at a certain point, like, it kind of, I'm not saying, this is just my, it's like, was the government involved? Like, you know, like, why are they trying so hard not to let you know anything about it? You know what I mean? So I don't know. It makes you just ask like all kind of like weird questions.
Now I'm beginning to understand why we know really so little hard fact about what happened in '63, because even with all the powers we now have of the internet and all the rest of it, we're still none the wiser about what happened in the summer with Donald Trump.
No, that's right. Now, and it's interesting. It's not to disappear down an unrelated rabbit hole, but if you look at it, we're in two different times, right? Now, the flow of information now in present times, access to information. Everybody's got a smartphone. You know, media's playing beat the clock against anybody who's got a smartphone who thinks they're a journalist. So you would imagine that information would have flown much quicker, and there would be more transparency after the incident with Donald Trump, the first incident with Donald Trump. And, you know, previously with JFK, with RFK, with MLK, Martin Luther King, that wasn't the case, right? We had to wait for the evening news, and information flowed much slower. But it is remarkable after all this time. Look, you know, the commission or the congressional law in '92, you know, which said, you know, you have to release this information on JFK unless there's deemed to be some national security concern. You know, that was a 25-year hold. So 2017, it was, you know, Trump who then came in and said, well, okay, some of it's going to have to remain classified. That continues this burning desire on the public's part. And also from a conspiracy point of view, look, nobody...
Hey, none of y'all go hit the likes. Y'all trying to play me? What y'all doing, man?
He wants to imagine that it was one person, right? I'm not saying it was one person. Again, I haven't seen all the evidence. I was a toddler when this happened, and the CIA didn't hire me to do it, right? So, although that would have been a remarkable event, but what I'm saying is, it's one of those things where nobody wants to believe that something of that magnitude could take place with one person. It has to be a bigger story. Maybe it is, but I understand why conspiracy theories continue as they are, right? And this is a remarkable issue. If they don't release every document, and this is not an executive order that says you will now release the document, it says DOJ and the Director of National Intelligence have 15 days to decide a plan to release the material. They could still hold some of it back, right? But I think at this stage of the game, look, you know, there's no real sound argument for sources and methods or protection of individuals.
This is ridiculous, man. The government is ridiculous, bro.
Just release it, right? And again, it may be unsatisfactory. There may not be a smoking gun, but at least you're taking another step towards transparency.
Yeah, and of course, Jefferson Morley, I know that you said that some of the most important files are missing, probably destroyed. These include the official JFK autopsy report, which contradicts supposedly the lone gunman and single bullet theory, the recording of a phone call between Lyndon Johnson and J. Edgar Hoover on the morning of the assassination, the CIA files on Lee Harvey Oswald's Russia connections. These all seem very, very important, significant things, which if they had just been destroyed or disappeared for whatever reason, then
Richard Porter said James filed confession. He named all the mob guys Francesi was talking about.
This could end up being a bit of a damp squib, but that would then prompt the question, well, if it's a damp squib, why have you not just revealed all this before?
Yeah. Yeah, the law, the law is very clear, and it was supposed to have been, it had a 2017 sunset provision. So the CIA has blown the deadline by 8 years. So naturally people are getting a little impatient. But I'll say this, Piers, yes, a lot has been destroyed, but you can't understand what's going to come out in the next few weeks if you don't understand what's come out in the last few years. The pre-assassination Oswald file, what the doctors saw, the CIA's own internal investigation. And there are documents in the collection that apply directly to these matters that should be declassified. And I want to say this, I've been at this a long time, and I have high expectations, but I also have hard experience. The CIA knows how to push back. They know how to get a president's ear. They know how to make him defer to their wishes. It happened to Biden. It happened to Trump, and it could definitely happen again. What's key is that people understand we have a benchmark, a dozen documents. If we get all 12, Trump gets an A. If we get 9 out of the 12, Trump gets a B. If we get 6 out of the 12, we know how strong the CIA remains. It's not complicated. James Angleton's testimony to the Church Committee in 1975, 120-page document, heavily redacted. Angleton controlled the Oswald file from 1959 to 1963, so that document should be made public immediately. CIA surveillance operations in Mexico City that picked up on Oswald.
He said Executive Order 111110.
Well, there's a 77-page report on those, heavily redacted. That should be declassified. So this isn't a fishing expedition, and we're not looking for smoking guns. We're looking at the fact pattern that will establish that the government's account of the crime is not correct, and we need a better explanation.
And Michael Franzese, I mean, if I was an American Michael Franzese, I mean, you have a right to know this stuff. I mean, this involves the assassination
Absolutely.
of one of your presidents, the assassination of potentially the next president in Bobby Kennedy, and then the assassination, obviously, of Martin Luther King as well. We haven't got to that. But in terms of JFK in particular, the American people, I think, have a fundamental right to know this stuff.
Absolutely, Pearson. What I would like to see, if they deny the fact that Jack Ruby had mob connections. Because if they deny that, then I know this whole thing is a sham. Because he absolutely 100% mob connections his entire life, going back to Chicago. And then I think, Campisi, who was a very powerful mob guy in Dallas, he had, connections with all the strip clubs and the places that Ruby was involved in. Because you don't hear much about Jack Ruby. They just see he was some lone nut, If they lie about his connections, then that says it all to me. I wouldn't believe anything that came out of that from that point on, because he was definitely connected to us.
Let me ask you, Michael, with the mob theory, Michael, it's such a big thing to do, whoever you are, to be involved in the assassination of an American president. You were in the mob a long time at a pretty high level. Could you ever countenance the idea that would happen, that you would have the mob in any way, any one of the families being directly complicit in the involved assassination of a president?
The answer to me is yes, because, it was during that time. I always say this, Pierce, the golden years of the mob in the United States was really from the late 40s, mid 40s, right through to the mid 80s when Giuliani went wild with the RICO Act and put a lot of damage in. We had a lot of power at that time. You're talking about, 50, 60, 70. We had a lot of power. And, Sam Giancana, very powerful guy, Carlos Marcelli, all the 5 families in New York. We had power and connections, and it's not inconceivable. Again, the CIA, I think it's a matter of fact that they came to us on 2 occasions. And why would they not come to us at this point in time, too? We had the ability. And look, Jack Ruby had the connections. He had a lot of connections with the police department. He was able to get into that area that night. I don't know if they questioned him. I mean, the guy had a gun on him. How did he get in there at that point in time? Look, it's absolutely not out of the question. And like I said, Piers, if you had to give me a lie,
I don't talk about crypto on here.
Detector test and my life depended on it. Everything that I've heard points to mob involvement in that. And again, I want to, reiterate what this other gentleman said. I'm not saying we were involved from day one, but I know that we hated the Kennedys. There was no question about that. As a matter of fact, I think there was one, Sam Giancana was caught on tape saying we killed the wrong Kennedy, because it was really Bobby, from what I understand, that went against Joe Kennedy and John Kennedy and still continued going after the mob when he was supposed to back off. And I think I heard that there was some kind of discussion about that Frank Sinatra came back and told Giancana they can't control Bobby. I heard that also. So no, there was a lot of stuff pointing to the fact, but I'm telling you that the key is here. If they deny that Jack Ruby was not all mobbed up and had mob connection, this whole thing is false.
Fascinating. Finally, Mike Baker. I mean,
Lee Harvey Oswald lived all of those years, and they didn't really just question this dude, why did you do that? If he did.
The problem is we live in a conspiracy-fueled era now where the social media in particular makes a conspiracy theory out of everything, right? I mean, there's just nothing that can happen now without immediately absurd, crazy theories. From a CIA point of view, is that a good or bad thing? Does it help mask, some pretty secret covert activity? Does it muddy waters?
It said President John F. Kennedy assassin Lee Harvey Oswald during a news conference after his arrest in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963. Oswald was unalived by Jack Ruby 2 days later on the eve of Kennedy's burial.
Does it get in the way? What do you feel about the sort of ongoing tsunami of conspiracy theories?
Yeah.
Why did Jack Ruby do that? In 1964, the Warren Commission concluded that Ruby acted alone in unaliving Oswald and that Ruby popped Oswald on impulse and in retaliation for the Kennedy assassination. Oh, no, man.
Look, it's that's a complex question. There's an upside and a downside to it, right? In terms of, if you, from an operational perspective, if you've got a lot of noise that you've created out there and a lot of different, dead ends that people can run down, then yes, it could benefit you from an operational perspective. That's why you have covert action campaigns, propaganda campaigns, disinformation campaigns, misinformation campaigns, right? Because it can be beneficial from an operational standpoint, right? That's why any
Hey, y'all can't I'm not talking about crypto, man. I don't do that on here.
Intelligence service, it's got the resources and the motivation, engages in that sort of behavior as well. So again, it's, we live in a time where, do you have more conspiracy theories now than ever before? Well, yes, you do, because of the speed of information and the access to information that people have in general. But the JFK situation, I have this feeling, call me cynical, but I've looked at it a lot. I've looked at the MLK again. I would like to make a final pitch that Martin Luther King is something we should be talking about on another segment. And there's a fascinating thread between RFK and Martin Luther King. Like Robert Kennedy, he authorized some of the wiretaps on Martin Luther King, right? So there's connections here that are very, very interesting. But I just think this conspiracy theory, regardless of what is in this next release of documentation, even if it's a full release, I don't know that it's going to end up satisfying a lot of people.
It's interesting. We're talking this week about this, and we will obviously have to wait. Maybe get you guys all back when we get them declassified and revealed, if they reveal them all. But we're also literally yesterday, it's now been reported that the official kind of American government position on COVID is it almost certainly did now emanate from the lab, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which doesn't seem anything other than the bleeding obvious, given it was literally testing coronaviruses. But if you remember at the time, in 2020, that people who put forward, they were called mad conspiracy theorists, and it's like one of those things where you look back, it's only 4 or 5 years ago that people were accused of being nutcases for saying that it didn't come from the wet market and must have come from a lab. Now it seems to be that is indeed how COVID originated, which seems obvious when you look back at it. Similarly, like I said, we don't know anything about why that kid tried to kill Trump last summer. So I hope we do get clarity on this, but it's going to be fascinating. And I do think, actually, Michael Francese, your point was really good, because there can be no doubt.
And RFK's Senate hearing, I think, is tomorrow.
From everything I've read, that Jack Ruby was with the mob. And if they do try and pretend that wasn't the case, everything else that they say, I suspect, can be taken with a pinch of salt. It's going to be riveting. I mean, and the fact we've got potentially a member of Trump's cabinet is literally the son of Bobby Kennedy. When this all goes down, is going to be fascinating. But for now, I will leave it.
Interesting.
But we'll get you back.
Let's bring in Douglas Brinkley, presidential historian and history professor at Rice University. Douglas, good to see you as always. Here is RFK Jr. talking about his father's assassination on the All In podcast back in May. Watch this.
Do you believe they murdered or were involved in the murder of your uncle?
The CIA, yes, they were definitely involved in the murder, and and the 60-year cover-up. They're still not releasing the papers that legally they have to release. But I don't think there's any doubt.
Douglas, your thoughts on this executive order signed by President Trump, and within a matter of days, he wants to see the plan to finally release all of it, not hold anything back from the CIA.
I think the time has come to release all of these documents. We have so many conspiracy theories going out there, and over a period of time, batches have been released. But we might as well just get this done with and see what happened. Bobby Kennedy Jr., I've spoken to him over the years. He's been on a hobby horse about believing the CIA killed his father. I'm not of that school, but he's taken the time to actually go meet Sirhan Sirhan, the charged and imprisoned assassin, and Bobby Jr. wanted him released. Coretta Scott King and the King family, particularly Dexter, went to meet James Earl Ray, who killed King, and they believed Ray was innocent. So, there's been this confusion in the country on all three assassinations, and this should be the last big step. But we will never know if things were destroyed somewhere along the line. Let's see if any redactions are still hanging in there. But the argument now, after 50 years, that it's we have to keep holding on to this stuff. I think transparency is good now, just like Frank Church, a Democrat of.
But the thing is, like, some people may still be alive. Tim Hart said, "Hey, yo, Paperboy, what's up, my guy? Listen to me, what's going on?" And then Big Pontiac said, "Kennedy did bring troops back from Nam." Richard Porter said, "Remind you, the CIA phrased the term conspiracy theory."
Idaho did after Watergate. There are these moments where you got to let this stuff out, and Trump committed to it, and he lived through with it with that executive order.
I think it says something about his larger feeling about the CIA and about things that are kept from the public. And certainly after this much time, it seems like it should be out. But as you point out, there may be things that were destroyed, and we'll see what the redactions look like. But in any event, it seems high time. It's interesting that Senator Blackburn, put out there today in this same vein that she wants to see the Jeffrey Epstein documents. She says he built a disgusting global sex trafficking.
They not go. Marsha Blackburn, shout out to her. She's a Tennessee senator, I think. I don't know, man. They're gonna try their best not to release the Epstein. Yo, this country is so. The secrets is insane. They will stop at nothing to prevent you from knowing anything.
Network. Americans deserve to know exactly who was affiliated with this network. I get this question a lot, Douglas. I mean, what happened to the evidence that was found in Epstein's house? And, they went out of there with a treasure trove, they told us, of information.
I don't know, and that's why I think the senators are, asking for some transparency on that. It's clear that we're living in an age where people are suspicious of the federal government, and that's what this election, one of the things that Trump ran on. I'm sure Epstein might come up down the line, but maybe not. It's so close to our time. In the cases of both Kennedys and King, 50 years is an awful long time. Let's get it all out there and move on and see how the puzzle pieces meet.
Yeah, I brought up the name Thomas Crooks earlier today, and someone said, who's that? And I said, doesn't that...
Moss said conspiracy theories are unexplained facts. Tim Hart said, it's the Martin Luther King family doesn't want the files to be released. What's that about? It is true. You said, is it true? Was he a CIA affiliate? I don't know. I think they probably don't want to relive this again, the King family, if that's the case. And then Happy People is another member on the channel. He said, I know you restricted in voicing certain things because of your new following, but as a black man, what is going on since the beginning of time? What does that mean?
I pretty much tell you everything you need to know. This is the young man who tried to kill President Trump. And it's like we know absolutely nothing about this individual. And most people don't even know his name. It's pretty stunning. So,
yeah, I like how she just said that. Like, most people don't even know his name. It's pretty stunning. I don't know, man, but shout out to everybody. We ended up listening to the Piers Morgan show. And as I, looked at the White House website, they've got the executive order up there, but they haven't released anything yet. So we just got to wait and see what they're going to do. You know what I mean? And then Moss was laughing. The kid said Donald Trump didn't eat all day today. They sat him down in an office. It seemed like he not eating and doing nothing. He going here, he doing an interview. Here, he doing an interview. He's been super busy, bro. Hold on. I think he got a, let me see. Let me see. 6 days ago, he did an interview. I think it was like Sean Hannity. Hold on. Let me see this.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about the moment you walked back in this office, this desk, this room, your carpet. How'd you feel?
Well, it was a lot of work. And as you know, I felt that we shouldn't have had to necessarily be here. Could have been done. A lot of work could have been, it would have been over. We wouldn't have inflation. We wouldn't have had the Afghanistan disaster.
Hey, I don't want to hear anything about the JFK stuff until the White House releases it. Everybody's got their theories. People be wrong. It's just people just trying to get traction, get clicks. I want to, you can't believe everything that the government tells you. I do want to put that out there, but I want to see what they're going to put out.
Wouldn't have October 7th with Israel, where so many people were killed, and you wouldn't have a Ukraine war going on. But with all that being said, I think it's bigger. It's bigger than if it were more traditional.
Only the second time in history.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't have consecutive terms.
Yeah. Well, they say it's historically bigger. I don't know about that. But I can say it showed us a couple of things. It showed us that the radical left, their philosophies and policies are horrible. They don't work. You look at crime, you look at what's gone on the border, you look at what's going to happen, the crime that's going to happen. But I think we got there just in the nick of time. But we still have you covered better than anybody. We have terrorists in our country by the thousands. We have murderers in our country by the tens of thousands. We have numbers that came out, 11,000 people that murdered are now free and walking around in our country. And
what?
Of them, I think 48%, they say, killed more than one person, and they're walking around. They came out of jails from other countries. And, people, they've emptied their jails. I would, if I were the president or prime minister or something of another country, I'd empty my jails right into America, into the United States. Why not? And many of them did it. If you look at Venezuela, their crime rate is down now 78%. Because they took their street gangs and they moved them into the United States.
That's crazy.
And you're seeing that in Colorado and Los Angeles and other places, and we're going to take care of it.
So did Biden really say to you when you came up to the front of the White House, welcome home?
No, did somebody say that?
I read it somewhere.
I don't know, maybe.
I wonder what that envelope had in it when he got into the Oval Office. Biden left the envelope. I think the envelope was like, ha ha, I messed up the United States, you got to fix it. No, but I wonder what was in the envelope.
Remember?
I really don't know.
So you left him a letter. It was funny with Peter Doocy, and Peter said, oh, Mr. President, did Joe Biden leave you a letter? He did leave you a letter.
He did.
And you had left him one, but you've never disclosed either one of them.
Well, a lot of people...
Now would be a great time.
You know, it was interesting. A lot of people thought it was sort of like a setup with Peter Doocy and myself, and I have a lot of respect for Peter. But he just asked me a question about the letter. And then I remember that, it's like a custom, you leave it right in the drawer of that beautiful desk right alongside of us. And so I opened it up, and I actually gave the letter to Peter.
And did he got to read it?
I guess. I haven't.
You don't know
I just sent it to him a little while ago.
All right, before we get into, there's so much substance that you are inheriting a lot of problems, a lot of things that actually scare me. And I want to get to all of that, but I will get to all of that. They're
all solvable problems.
I agree.
I think Trump is so sharp because he never drinks alcohol. I think that's what, bro, this dude's 79, what is he, 78 years old? And he's just sharp.
They're all solvable.
Not easy.
With time, effort, money, unfortunately. But they're all solvable problems. We can get our country back. But if we didn't win this race, I really believe our country would have been lost forever.
Were there moments, I mean, when you think of what they threw at you, and I know you signed this declaration about no more weaponization, and we know that the preemptive pardons came up on Joe's way out, but you were facing a civil trial, a criminal trial, conviction, sentencing, Jack Smith, D.C., Florida, Fonnie Willis. I mean, you fought through all of that to get back right here in this office. What people don't know is over there's a little red button you push. You scare people. People think it's the nuclear button, but it's really,
something else.
It's you use it for a different purpose. But the question I have, it was, at any point, did you doubt you would be back here?
So it's a great question. It's something I don't think about. I never really thought about it. I don't think about, gee, will I be back? I just do it. I get it done. I get things done. I'm good at...
I just do it. I get it done. I get things done, bro. That's fire, bro.
Getting things done. And I set my mind to it. As you know, we had a great election in 2016. I had a much better election in 2020. And if I didn't have that election, I wouldn't have run. If I thought that I didn't get the number of votes, and it was reported that I got almost 75 million votes, and that was their numbers. That wasn't the numbers, that was their numbers. That was more than anybody has gotten in history, any sitting president had ever gotten. And you lost. Had I gotten like 50 million, or 40 million, or 60 million, I would never have run. But that was like a poll. So, but I had a different attitude. Too big to rig.
Poll came out just in the last 24 hours by Insider Advantage. That's Matt Towery. He nailed 2016, 2020, and 2024. Great pollster, as you know.
Right.
And he gave you a 56% approval rating. He also said of Congress, and I had a town hall with members of Congress last night, that 70% of respondents want Congress to unite behind your agenda.
I watched that show. It was a great show, and you had some great people in the background. I know every one of them, and they're really patriots. I just saw the love, as the speaker, who was doing a terrific job. The speaker is answering questions, and I saw the acknowledgement and the love they had. And those are tough people behind him. These are not easy people.
There are others that are tougher.
I thought, well, I don't know. This is a tough group if they want to be. They're not, nobody much tougher. But they're very unified. I think they're going to do a great job.
But they have a small majority. You went through over 200 since we've got here. And we have breaking news today that we'll get to in a minute. And especially as it relates to the border and some other issues. But you're going to need to do some of these things legislatively. You will probably play the largest role in uniting them both in the House and Senate. Reconciliation, the Senate has very strict, rules governing how they can do.
Yo, when you're president of the United States, you literally just gotta roll. You don't have time to do anything, bro. For 4 years, you mad busy. If you a good one. This guy's been everywhere in the last 2 weeks. Bro, I went to work. I'm like, I got to go to work tomorrow. And I'm like, man, this dude is everywhere, bruh.
Do you, one big beautiful bill, two bills, do you care at this point?
I don't care as long as we get to the final answer. I like the concept of the one bill. I guess I said one big beautiful, and that's what everyone faces. Actually, it's sort of a nice sound to it. But I do like that concept. It could be something else. It could be a smaller bill and a big bill. Right. But as long as we get to the right answer. Now, I will say that Los Angeles has changed everything because a lot of money is going to be necessary for Los Angeles. And a lot of people on the other side want that to happen. And
North Carolina, too.
Well, they don't care about North Carolina. The Democrats don't care about North Carolina. What they've done with FEMA is so bad. FEMA is a whole other discussion because all it does is complicate everything. FEMA has not done their job for the last 4 years. I had FEMA working really well. We had hurricanes in Florida. We had Alabama tornadoes. But unless you have certain types of leadership, it gets in the way. And FEMA is going to be a whole big discussion very shortly because I'd rather see the states take care of their own problems. If they have a tornado someplace and if they let that state, Oklahoma is very competent. I love Oklahoma. 77 out of 77 districts.
Bro, I'm never drinking alcohol again, bro. I want to be at 78. I want to be this sharp. Just quick with it, memories on point. Yo. But shout out to everybody. I'm about to get up out of here. I know I kept y'all long enough. Yo, we got we got mad subscribers in the past 28 days. That's crazy. I didn't realize that. I just looked man. I don't know if people are coming in from that video I did or if it's just regular. This is crazy. You know what I'm saying? But shout out to everybody. We about to get up out of here. I'm out, y'all. Peace.